Is Monday, November 29th, and we are glad you are joining us this evening as we meet for a special day to discuss an opinion in respect to the appointment of George Georges to the Clawson City Council. We're going to begin our meeting by calling this meeting to order. I hereby call this meeting to order. We are now going to stand and cite the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to remain standing as Councilmember Sampson provides words of encouragement.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, bless this gathering and help guide the decisions of the City Council to ensure that we make the best decisions for the city of Clawson and the community. And please open our hearts to accept the decisions of this special meeting. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan.
I am here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Present.
Councilmember Sampson.
There.
Councilmember Shepard. Here. That is a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next thing on our agenda is public comment for items that are on the agenda. If you would like to speak, you can come up to the microphone, state your name and address if you'd like, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Susan Moffett, 726 Strand. A couple things, as always. Number one, I chose not to run so that I could watch these meetings from my own home with a glass of wine and my dog on my lap. However, as long as there's this atrocity taking place, I feel I need to come in person and speak. So as I considered what should be said today in regard to the item on the agenda, we are seeking a legal opinion, but as the city attorney so poignantly pointed out, it's really a two-pronged decision, right? There's the legal aspect, which we all know attorneys make their money arguing a case on either side. So it's a 50-50 chance, depending on what attorney that we get. And there's the rub, the point of this whole meeting, to find an attorney who's going to, decide the legality of the appointment of George Georges. But at bigger hand is the morality of it. And the public has so strongly raised their objection. And as I searched for words to express what is going on here, I wrote down a couple that came to mind. I'm going to give you a word, a definition, and then I will use it in a sentence. Treason as a noun, the act of betraying something or someone. George Georges is committing treason by refusing to resign. Treachery, betrayal of trust, deceptive action, or nature. Councilmember Glenn Shepard and Lou Sampson committed treachery in their appointment of George Georges to the council. Disloyal, the quality of not being loyal to a person, country, or organization. Unfaithfulness. George Georges' refusal to resign from the council seat he did not earn is a demonstration of his disloyalty to the community. And earned, to obtain something in return for labor or service. George Georges did not earn his council seat. That's all I got today.
Thank you very much.
It's going to be expensive.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, members of the council. And Mr. Sampson, that was a good prayer. I really liked it. It was simple and right to the point. Thank you for making it. But with respect to the 4 attorneys that you have before you or they're on the agenda for consideration, I was really surprised when I found out there'd been no interview process. I don't know how you can hire an attorney by you doing your research, so forth, and then saying, we're going to somehow come to a conclusion. I would think that those 4 attorneys or any attorney you'd have in here just like you would a city manager. I don't care if it's for one issue. This is a critical issue. And I was surprised that that's actually a little bit disappointed that you guys hadn't done that. You might as well do it by blind draw because I may trust him, not trust you, somewhat trust you, and you I wouldn't do anything with. And I just chose you randomly to say that. I hope you did your work. I believe you did your work, but I don't know how you could convince me that this is the guy or gal to choose based on your research. But if they would have sat here, as you should have used the last 2 weeks to interview them, even for one issue, you would have had this done, you would have chosen someone. And the other thing I was quite surprised at is, I see a lack of municipal attorneys. I mean, just the common sense is, you don't choose a real estate attorney to do wills and so forth, whatever that is. There are people in here, they're attorneys, obviously, they're magistrates. But I don't know if they're qualified, and I don't think you know if they're qualified. If you're only doing it on a resume, I'm really uncomfortable with that. And yes, I'm only one person. But you wouldn't have hired an interim city manager, which normally lasts 2, 3, 4 months. It's not a single issue matter. You'd bring him in, you'd want to talk to him or her and find out, is this the guy or gal we want to rest our decision with? On a much lighter note, whoever decided to expand leaf collection by 1 week, you've done me a tremendous favor. It's an incredible amount. The amount of leaves that I put out over the weekend is incredible. So whoever did that, thank you, and I appreciate it. And if it was the council, I'm going to thank you. And Scott, if it was you, take the credit for it.
Hats off to the DPW supervisor and everyone that worked.
Would you please pass that on to them? Because they'll be in front of my house for at least an hour. And there's at least an hour's worth of leaves just in front of my house. So thank you, and I look forward to your discussion tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Do we have anyone online? That's me squinting. Okay, thank you. I have to squint to see that. So, okay, we'll close public discussion. And now let's move to the reason we're here tonight. Selection of outside counsel to provide an opinion in respect to the appointment of George Georges to Clawson City Council. We, if you recall, last meeting, we're in a deadlock. And the positive vote was to allow Magistrate Chisholm from Royal Oak to provide us with 4 names at his selection, and he did so. So the names he selected were James Patrick Brennan, who is a magistrate from Ferndale, Rob Morad, who is a magistrate in Novi, Mark Liss, an attorney retired from Royal Oak, and Spencer Bondi, who is an attorney in Milford. Additionally, someone added 2 other names today, an Ann McLaughlin and a John D. Starren. So, Mr. Nishai, do you want to add anything to this, or do we begin, or are we ready to begin discussion?
I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I can address the point with respect to, I happen to know all 6 attorneys. As you can imagine, I practice, throughout this community. So I know all 6. I know all 6 to be excellent attorneys. Any one of them will be able to do this. I will have no concerns. It is not, to correct a prior statement, it's not a decision that we're seeking, right? It's an opinion that we're seeking, and there's some nuance to that. So I think with respect to analyzing the issue that council seeks to have analyzed, I think any one of them will be able to do the job.
Why'd you add 2 names late today?
Mr. Anderson reached out to me last evening. He indicated that he wanted to add those 2 names for council's consideration.
Okay, let's go down, let's just, well, Mr. Shepherd, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we had a motion that we agreed to, that it would be Magistrate Chisholm that would pick 4 names. And we have 4 names, but now we have additional 2. I think based on our motion that we approved, that we stick with the 4.
Any other thoughts on that?
Yes. The reason I did that is part of the decision was to turn to Mr. Chisholm for his nominees. But one of the conditions that was made clear, at least by the mayor, and I agreed with, was that the attorney had to have municipal law experience. So what I did over the weekend, I did research on all 4, and none of them had that in their advertisement. I then took it upon myself to check with a local municipal attorney and ran the 4 names past him. He was able to confirm for me that these gentlemen, although fine people, did not have municipal law experience. So I asked this attorney, well, do you have any names to offer yourself? And he did. And so those are the two that he provided. And I double checked them. And sure enough, in their advertisements, they both claim municipal experience.
And my thoughts are, I did not, as you know, I did not support Mr. Chisholm making this decision for us. Not a problem with him doing it, although I was extremely staunch on the fact that I do feel that this is imperative that we have municipal experience. Not that anyone can't render an opinion, because that is what we're looking for. If that's the case, we could ask any number of you in the audience to render such opinion. I feel like we're doing our community a disservice if we do not seek someone who does this day in, day out. There are nuances to everything, as you know, that just because you can read a sentence and provide a definition and a use in another sentence doesn't mean that you're perhaps going to do it in its entirety in the way that it was intended. I, for one, have been had a very great experience with using a word that was totally appropriate for a conversation and then was schooled on it rather quickly because it was a little aggressive for the conversation. So knowing this, first and foremost, I would like to say that I do not think, I personally, of course, don't have a problem with adding 2 more names to this list. I read the bios of everyone. I went to every company that they represent and looked at what they do first and foremost. If you are selling yourself, you are going to put first and foremost what you do that makes your bread and butter, and what you do that you enjoy, and it's quick turnover, and probably what you do the bulk of. The 4 gentlemen that were given to us by Mr. Chisholm, none of them do these things. If you look up the other 2 names, and I'm not familiar with any of them, I do actually know one of them, but in the first list. If you look up the other 2, they have extensive experience, not just representing a community, but representing DDAs and various entities, dealing with taxes, dealing with the whole entirety of a municipality. And for our dollar that we're spending, and for the fact that this is important, I will not settle, I will not vote on anyone that does not have municipal experience.
So not to dissuade from any of your thoughts, just a slight gentle correction. I think you're correct with respect to Magistrate Brennan and Magistrate Morad. I mean, they magistrate, so that's the primordial job that they have. I don't know whether Mr. Bondi has any experience in municipal law. I'll trust your review on that. But Mr. Liss was the Royal Oak City Attorney. He was the Assistant City Attorney for a gazillion years and then became Interim City Attorney so he's steeped in this.
So when I called them to ask about, when I called the attorney's office there and asked about him, I was told he did prosecutorial law, that was his specialty, that he wasn't technically the city attorney, that he did the prosecutor work.
Yeah, so I speak from my...
There's a difference, right? Like,
Yeah,
big
certainly.
difference.
I mean, well, certainly, but he did prosecutions as part of his duties, but in Royal Oak, they have an in-house counsel system, so they do everything under the sun. They're not limited to only one portion of those duties. Again, ultimately your choice, obviously, where you go, just so that you're aware.
If we hearken back to last week as well, I'll give you the highlight reel. The highlight reel was, I'm looking for someone with municipal experience. Other people were looking for people at least 1 county away, and then we were going 2 counties away. And then that didn't happen, so we wound up an arm's length away because we went to Royal Oak. So if we're taking any of that into consideration today, I don't think distance is the most important thing. I don't think knowing anyone in this community is the most important thing. I think the most important thing, in my opinion, is someone who has municipal law and is versed on charters and perhaps might even state it in their bio, and that can assist us with this in a quick and expedient manner. So I'm finished with mine. If anyone else has anything they'd like to add, or if someone has a motion they'd like to make.
Well, yeah, I did the background research too, and I quickly found, Mr. Liss's background and, being the assistant, as Mr. Nusha had said, it was fairly obvious that he had municipal experience and that his, from what I had seen from a couple of different sites, that he had experience in government law. The other one was Spencer Bondi, and that his initial training for years of experience was in local government. In fact, it says on his bio, following law school, Spencer's legal career began in a prominent municipal and insurance defense law firm in the Detroit metropolitan area, where he spent his first years in practice providing counsel on the very legal issues impacting local communities. So, I mean, I'm not sure what bio you're looking at, but I mean, it's pretty clear, you know, there was a reason why Mr. Chisholm had given these 4 names. And again, that's what we came out of that meeting, and I'm really confused on why we're going beyond that in adding 2 more in not looking legitimately at the names in front of us that were given to us last week.
Anyone?
No, I guess maybe I'll make a comment. Yes, I did some research, and again, you can only learn so much, you know, from a website. So that's why I contacted another attorney for this. And he basically said, yeah, the 4 of them. In fact, a little surprised that Mr. Chisholm, I was a little disappointed because I was hoping in that 4 that we'd have somebody that would fit the criteria. That's why I called an attorney, and they basically said, yeah, the 4 of them. I mean, they may be involved with municipal law, but apparently they didn't feel that they were solid in that area. So that's where I went for 2 more.
I'd like to make a motion that we contact John D. Starren and seek an opinion in respect to the appointment of George Georges to the Clawson City Council.
I second it.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
No.
Councilmember Shepherd.
No. That fails.
Okay. Anyone else? Then I will make a motion that we contact Ann McClory McLaughlin, who has a stellar reputation online and various sources as a municipal attorney, to seek her opinion in respect to the appointment of George Georges to the Clawson City Council.
I second it.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
No.
Councilmember Shepherd.
No.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
That ties and fails.
So, is there anyone on this list that anyone has confidence in? I am 100% not confident in going with an attorney from Royal Oak, given your concerns. I'm doing this out of benevolence to you gentlemen from last week. The concern about having someone too close, I think we need to cross Royal Oak off of our list right off the bat. So, Mr. Liss, we appreciate your willingness to participate. However, I personally think we should remove you. Mr. Bondi is a relatively new attorney, does not have a lot of experience, if I'm not mistaken about that one. I'm not mistaken. And he may have spent a little time in municipal law in someone's office, but it is not what he does. If you look at his website, he is a get you out of jail, help you with your drugs situation. He gets stellar reviews. People give him a lot of credit for the things he's able to do, but he does not do what we need done for this community. The other 2 gentlemen have served long, illustrious careers. One, I believe, is retired or close to retirement, according to the people I spoke with. The other one is not, but has a, varied experience. Also not municipal experience. If we were looking for someone to do road work, we would go to an AEW type firm that does civil engineering. We would not come to my great firm that I work for, Gowland Associates, that does not do civil engineering. And I'm going to implore you one more time, because I know you're all tired of hearing my voice, to really be respectful in the process for our residents and to select someone who has experience and will represent our community well. So I will defer to someone else at this point. So if we are unable to make a decision as this board, what is our next step?
You set any, Thank you. Obviously, any citizen of the city of Clawson has the ability to challenge the decision and seek redress in court. The alternative, you have an election coming up, charter, and gives you the authority to schedule, to set an election for the seat. I don't mean to put Scott on the city. The city manager is pursuant to his authority. Has a limit as a purchasing agent, has a certain limit to spend discretionary funds to seek an opinion. It's probably not something that we would want the city manager to be involved in, but that's also one other option. But in the meantime, I don't know that.
When you talk about magistrates, they've listened to all types of cases, haven't they? So they
Yes.
should be versed in everything.
One imagine so, yes.
So we have two magistrates. That'd be, even if somebody sued, we can end up in front of a magistrate.
Yes.
Last week, we were really concerned about the whole short circle of life in Clawson, and one of our great residents is a magistrate, and we removed good candidates from our list, like stellar candidates from our list, because they knew him. I would be willing to guess that magistrate, also friends, there goes our 4 lists that we were given. So I guess the question is, what are the standards we're looking for? Are we looking for someone who's qualified in municipal law? Are we looking experienced in municipal law? Are we looking for someone who is within a certain geographical area? Are we looking for someone who only knows certain people? Because we're narrowing our pool greatly.
I remember I dropped my request for being 2 tiers out, so I gave in that. So I have given in. A magistrate, we can end up in front of one of these magistrates anyway. So I would motion that James Patrick Brennan is a magistrate. He's probably sat several kinds of cases, so a magistrate's a magistrate. They don't practice law, they oversee it.
Second.
Was that a motion?
Yeah, that's the first part I said is I motioned that.
Oh, okay, sorry. Mr. Anderson, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No.
Do you have anything, Mr. Shepherd?
Yeah, again, it goes back to what we sat here for over an hour last time on trying to come up with a mutual agreeable situation, and that was to refer back to Mr. Chisholm. And he came up with 4 names. These 4 names, from my research, I'm like highly recommended, highly commendable, and for our purposes and just rendering an opinion, I think this suits the standard. Now, again, as far as if you're thinking about, Mr. Morad, I don't care at this point whether he's got an association with Mr. Bosnick or not. I think the 4 names are the 4 names we should stick to, because that's what we came out of that meeting all in agreement for.
We weren't all in agreement, first of all, and this is not just rendering a decision. I take onus at that. This is not just simply rendering a decision. It is rendering an opinion that is something that's critical to our community. And if we are wanting to do something right, then we should utilize the correct tools. And I am personally not going to vote for anyone that doesn't have specific municipal experience. And it's not because I'm trying to be obstinate, it's because this community deserves someone who has specific municipal experience.
And then why would you be against a judge or a magistrate?
Because they don't necessarily have municipal experience.
They don't get to pick their cases, do they, Rennis? I mean, they have to get up to speed if they're going to make a decision.
Yes. Yes.
So this guy's spent his whole life getting up to speed on all kinds of cases. I'm sure he'll get up to speed on this one.
He may not be up to speed on city charters.
He has to get up to speed on it. He has to do the research to render a decision. He just can't pull it out of the air. He
Well,
can't read 2 things. He's going to have to make sure he's covered on everything
Yeah,
to
but
make a decision.
that may be true. That may be true. But for the same reason, we didn't select extremely well-qualified candidates
Because-
at our last meeting because we were concerned they knew someone.
Right.
Now we're saying, it doesn't matter if you guys are best friends and go to coffee every day. We'll take you. I don't buy that. I don't think that's right.
I never said that for these guys. I don't know any of these guys.
No, you didn't say it,
No.
but that was the intent last week was,
Yeah.
we can't do it for this reason, we can't do it for this reason, we can't, not can't. We won't for this, we won't for this, we won't for this.
I
And
thought
here we
ca-
are.
I thought we came to an agreement where somebody else gives us the names. Professionally, we go, these are your best choices. We pick one of them. I don't care who we picked.
That's what we agreed on as a
We can
body.
tear them up in little pieces and pick them out of a hat for all I care. It just, we had an agreement that we'd go with whatever we'd go with one of them he ever did at the last moment. Now we got two more people added to the list. I don't know why, but that was an agreement. And so we all get along and so we can start working towards something. I think we stick with the four, pick them out of a hat, whatever you want to do. You want motion, I don't care.
We're not allowed to pick them out of a hat, are we?
No,
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 I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Because I might have gone a
Figure
little
it
with
out. I
that.
brought one.
That would have been fair. Easy, but I would have put all
No.
6 in. That would just add to the drama of it. That would be great. So we have something on the table to vote on. I think we should go ahead and run the vote on Councilmember Sampson's motion.
Okay, Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
could you repeat the motion, please?
It's to James Patrick Brennan is the name.
No.
Mayor Milan.
No.
All right, tie fails.
So I can only speak for myself here, and I will just reiterate what I just said. I don't know what, Mr. Newshine, I'm not sure what the message was to Mr. Chisholm on what we're looking for, but I
I
thought
forwarded the
what we
email to you.
requested was people with municipal experience.
Yeah, I forwarded that email. If you noticed, and you may have missed it, but if you noticed, the email that I forwarded to council had the underlying exchange that I had with Mr. Chisholm outlining exactly that, the conversation that council had. Those are the four names that he suggested. I think you were a part of my phone call with him, that initial phone call that didn't deal with obviously any recommendation. Yeah, those are the four names, again, that in his opinion, any of these four would be able to render such an opinion for us.
And in my opinion, anyone in this room would be able to render a decision for us as well.
If I may gently push back, we're talking about two different things. There's opinion, and everybody, we're all entitled to them, and then we're talking about a legal opinion. The two are not commensurate.
No, but reading something and understanding what it says and then putting it to use, same thing, right? Like,
No respect.
we're giving someone our chart. Am I mistaken that someone's going to take our charter and they're going to read it in its entirety and say, does this apply? Does this apply?
No,
Does this
It's going to be
apply?
broader than that. You're right to a great extent. Of course, they're going to deal with our charter and our code of ordinances. They're going to deal with, with respect to the appointment, they're going to deal with our Robert's Rules of Order that we've adopted as part of our code of ordinances. But they'll also deal with the law, a common law that exists above and beyond that. That's what's going to set this opinion aside from your average person's opinion. Yeah, we all have opinions on the matter, but an attorney will be able to do the proper legal analysis that goes above and beyond our charter. It's not as simple as reading what the charter says. It's going to be putting it together with all those Court of Appeals and Michigan Supreme Court opinions that govern these kinds of situations. So it's a little more nuanced than that. Ultimately speaking, yeah, our charter will prevail. The meaning of our charter will prevail, but as understood by courts of law in this great country, in this great state.
If I may, Mayor.
Yes.
Honestly, I'd like to remind the council that the vote to select Mr. Chisholm was 3-1. I was in favor. And when he provided the names, I thought to myself, well, I don't really know any of these people. So I thought I'd do the research and I'd ask some opinions. I've lived in the Royal Oak, Clawson, Madison Heights area for 56 of my 58 years. I know a lot of people. So when I couldn't get off of research on the internet, I made a phone call to a municipal attorney and I asked him, I said, because honestly, gentlemen, I wanted all those four to be qualified. And when I looked and I'm looking through, it's like, I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. That's why I reached out and got an opinion. And the opinion I got was that all four of them are all fine people. Nothing wrong with any of them, but they're essentially mostly focused on criminal law, not municipal law. Now, again, we voted 3-1. The mayor was in the dissenting opinion, but I respected her position that it needs to be someone well-versed in municipal law and experience, because I think in the situation we're in, we need someone with absolute maximum credibility, not just in the legal community, but in the community of Clawson.
Maximum credibility would be a magistrate.
Well,
I really hope so.
That's your opinion, though. I respect it.
He's making, he's changing people's lives, so he has to be well-versed in everything he does.
We can't hear you.
Get that more.
Speaking in the microphone, please.
Okay,
I just want to say that we spoke as a body. I understand you had the dissenting vote, but that's not relevant. We spoke as a body. We motioned as a body. We approved as a body to have 4 names for Mr. Chisholm. We have those 4 names, and now we're going outside of that. We have our 4 names. Let's pick from the 4 names.
you're entitled to your vote. You may vote however you choose. I am entitled to my vote. I shall vote however I choose, and the same goes for all of you. And I hope that everyone that casts their vote does so with the utmost courtesy and respect for this community, which is what I'm trying to do, which is why I am not going against the body's vote from the last meeting. I'm going against the 4 names that were given. If we had 4 people who had staunch municipal experience, I would say pick one after making phone calls and not crossing anyone off for little reasons, right? Because let's be honest, you open up your machines and you could Google someone, you're gonna find great. Now, I found a couple news stories on a couple of these guys. Of course, they're gonna be in the news if they've been in the community forever, for whatever reason, being involved in cases and such. That's not what I'm looking for. I want to pull up the one that says, I have experience with city charters and elections and blah, blah, blah. That's what I think this community deserves. And I'm not going to settle, and I am not going outside of the body in making that decision. I'm working for this community. That is why I'm giving up my time, as you are, to work for this community. And I'm only one vote. If you outvote me, congratulations, but I'm not caving. I'm not handing something off. I'm going to stand up for what I think is right.
Mrs. Nishara, can you go to the MML and ask him?
I'm sorry,
Can we go to the MML and ask him for an attorney?
for recommendation to the MML?
No, can we get an attorney from the Michigan Municipal League?
We could advertise, is that what you mean? Just advertise to solicit an opinion?
Do they have a firm that would give us an opinion on this?
I'd have to, I don't know, but in this particular scenario, I think the way that it would have to work would be to solicit, to basically a bid, to do a bid for the issuance of such an opinion. I imagine, though, the only concern that I would have with respect to that is that we're talking about a few hours worth of work. So for anybody to be involved in a bid process, to be able to issue such an opinion, I would imagine that would be difficult. It's possible, it's doable. Might I recommend, just for purposes of tonight's meeting, may we have a vote on the last, since I think council has voted, on every name but one. May we have a vote on the last one, so at least we wrap up the list that we have?
We still got, we never did vote on Mark.
Okay, I'm
We
sorry.
never did vote on Bondi.
We voted on 3. 3, okay. My apologies. May we have a vote on the rest of them, so that at least we know where we stand with respect to all of them, and then we can talk about future steps, if that makes sense, Madam Mayor.
I move Mark Liss.
Second.
Conversation? Roll call, please.
Councilman Shepard?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Mayor Milan?
No.
Councilman Sampson?
Yes.
Tie fails.
All right. I move Spencer Bondi.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Mayor Milan?
No.
Councilmember Sampson?
Yes.
And Councilman Shepard?
Yes.
Tie fails. I think we still have Murad.
I move Morad.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Motion second. Mayor Milan?
No.
Councilman Sampson?
Yes.
Councilman Shepard?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Tie fails.
So if we had these individuals by resume and not by name, and if the last two names were on the list from Magistrate Chisholm, would anyone on this dais be opposed to either Ann McClory McLaughlin or John D. Steeren, based on their qualifications?
We had a vote. We already said no.
I'm asking a question. I'm allowed. I'll take that as a need to think about it. Okay, well, I hate to call defeat, and I'm not going to call this as defeat. I'm going to call this as residents deserve better, and I'm not caving on this one myself personally. Can't speak for anyone else. I guess we will close this portion of our 6 names that we were given. I'm going to it's futile to do this again, because depending on where the names come from, give them all of their weight. And that's a shame, because their qualifications should fully rule this process. And since that clearly is not going to take place, I think we need to look at an additional avenue. And
Madam Mayor, at the next meeting, if I may, at the next regular meeting, we'll have that option with respect to the special election on the agenda. I think it would be a proper path. Obviously, it's not something that we should necessarily deal with tonight.
so we will be outside of what our charter states, which I guess, what does it matter? Our charter states that we would have to appoint within 30 days. So what would you suggest that?
Well, the appointment portion, if that's your concern, we're not necessarily, technically that's tangential to this issue. We're seeking an opinion with respect to the current appointment of Mr. Georges, right? That's separate and distinct with respect to, you're presuming that you would be appointing. The appointment would be at the moment there's a vacancy, so I think you're okay with respect to that. Come next meeting, I think the appropriate path is on the agenda, we'll have an item that deals with, Section 504 of the Charter, which is the section that deals with special elections.
Okay, just for the record, for anyone just heard what Mr. Nushai said, I have no intent of appointing anyone. Not on my plan, not on a list,
Yeah, I
none
didn't
of
mean-
that,
I
right?
didn't mean to insinuate that,
Because you know
sorry.
how these things run, this is a train that will run by itself, and I have no intent of doing that. I have no interest in doing that. Actually, I would like this process to play out well. I would like to play out justly, and I would like to see an ending to it rather soon. So we will address this at the next regular meeting. So the next thing on the agenda would be public comment for items not on the agenda today. And if there's anyone that would like to speak.
Again, Joe Marucci, 1010 Goodale. My only suggestion is, there are firms that are specialized in municipal law. One of them represents the city in terms of defense work for a slip and fall or wrongful termination, and that's Cummings McClory. And they also do quite a bit of city representation in terms of just acting as city attorney. So they've been here for like 20 years. They're a preeminent firm in the municipal field. I would suggest talking to them. There's a firm that does mostly townships, Foster Swift. I don't think they represent any cities, but again, they're local government attorneys, and many townships have charters. There's one in Macomb County. I'm somewhat familiar with O'Reilly Rancilio. They do a lot of municipal work, not defense work on slip and falls, but in terms of Open Meetings Act and coming and sitting at the table as our attorney does. If it can be resolved, hopefully you guys can find someone from one of those 3 firms or whatever firm. I know the big 3, Plunk and Cooney, they must have many people that they'd love to put onto the city at $500 an hour. Other firms, I think, charge a more reasonable rate. Please, like I said, instead of a special election, and you're going to consider that in a week, we lose a week, think that maybe there's the 4 of you can come up with choosing someone from one of those 3 firms, or whoever, whatever municipal firms. I think it's really important to do it that way versus an election. And I don't think the league would have anyone other than, maybe there's an attorney. Again, it's not just a charter provision, it's also Court of Appeals, Circuit Court, maybe Supreme Court, or whatever the case may be. For what it's worth, municipal attorneys are the people to go to. So good luck to you, and because it's really, you're in a tough position. And I wish it weren't this way for the 4 of you and for us as residents.
Thank you.
Susan Moffett, 72631. Just to toggle off something that Mr. Marucci said, and along those same lines, I think this residents would feel comfortable if we had some attorneys come and present their credentials, and then they could discuss their municipal or lack thereof experience and how they would approach the process. So maybe with the mention of a couple of the firms that he suggested, if some attorneys could be invited and selected that way, just from having listened to this and what he said, my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, council. My name is Nate Hira. I live on Park Drive. Thank you for this opportunity. I think there's a solution to all of this that doesn't involve paying lawyers, and it's simply for the ethical thing to be done. I believe that when the vote was made on the 3rd to put us on this collision course with deadlock, an active decision was made to not listen to the people who put you in office. And there were other candidates on the ballot. There was the possibility for the council to appoint people, and there was the opportunity for the voice of the community to be heard. This is an exercise in securing power and dominance, and it's really taking its toll on the community. I could have been at a hospital tonight visiting with a friend, a neighbor who lives here in Clawson, who's been hospitalized, one of many people who have suffered mentally and physically from the strain and anxiety of this chicanery. Let's be quite clear, when you involve trickery to secure your power, it's a shame. It remains a shame to me. There's a lot more good things that could come from this council, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Sennett, 1336 North Bywood. So I remember, this could take us back a little bit, when I first spoke with you when you were running for council, Councilmember Sampson. It'd be great to have a military man on council because you understand when to retreat and when to reassess the situation. It's something that we hadn't seen on council yet. I've yet to see you practice that and take a step back and go, okay, so we did that and it's not working. Take a step back, because that's what a lot of us liked about you, was reassess, let's figure this out again. It'd be great to see that happen now. Councilmember Shepherd, I voted for you. I truly thought that you have, and you do have, the best intentions at heart. You just are caught in the middle of a turf war. Maybe I'm missing something, but what is it that George Georges brings to council that's so amazing that we can't possibly elect somebody else? Like, we had a vote, to quote you directly, Councilmember Shepherd, we spoke as a body, we voted as a body. We just did that in the election, and we didn't vote for the man that you guys are like dying on this hill for. I don't understand. And we're sitting at home, we're all watching this on YouTube, and we're like, what is going on? What is wrong with these people? Like, we didn't vote for the guy. If you could come to us and say, this is why George Georges is that obvious answer, and here's why you guys don't know that, tell us, and a lot of us would probably be like, I didn't know. That makes a lot of sense, because all of us are looking at it right now like, you gave the 3rd place bronze medal to the guy that didn't medal, and we're all going, this isn't a participation race. Like, you give medals to the guys that earn the medals. So if granted the opportunity, give us the answer that we so badly want as to why George Georges is the guy, and I think we'd all be satisfied. If you can't give us that answer as to why he's the linchpin that's going to make this all work, then just move on. Why are we charging attorney fees and all this other garbage to figure out an answer for a guy that we don't want, and then we're going to get charged more money than we've already spent to try and figure out what, like, why is that seat George George's seat and not the city of Clawson's council seat? It's infuriating. On a different note, Goodfellas is on Saturday. I would encourage all 4 of you to put your money where your mouth is and come hand out papers with your fire department. We could certainly use the manpower. If you want to come by and have breakfast with us, that would be great. But come hand out papers with the people that voted you in. That would be that'd be a show of good faith, I think.
What time? John, what time?
What time?
I think breakfast is at 10, I think we start at 12.
breakfast is at 10.
I think,
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
Pampers
Yeah.
9 to 1 is what I was told.
Well,
Brunch at 10?
yeah, brunch at 10. We start at 8, go to 1.
I personally
I just
am
got that
coaching
from
a
Troy this
basketball
morning.
game, but,
They have assistant coaches, so.
well, I am the assistant coach, so.
Thank you. I don't think you really want that to happen.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there anyone else? Okay, any council comments this evening before we do the motion to adjourn? Okay, well, I'll accept your motion to adjourn. Would anyone like to second it?
I'll second it.
Sampson?
Yes.
Shepherd?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes, thank you. And
We are
don't forget
adjourned.
about the tree lighting ceremony on Wednesday at 6:30 at the library. Have a good night.